はあ、面白かった。マリーはどうだった？ん？うわっと。
とっても良かった。会話はほとんどわからなかったけど、この映画を見られて嬉しい。
You know, this episode of Welcome to Japan Miss Elf excited me for a lot of different reasons. The first off is one of the main questions that I had was, what if Kazuhiro, Kazuhito? Was it Kazuhito? What if him and Miss Elf fall asleep but don't fall asleep right next to each other? Or no. What if they don't fall asleep holding each other? Because so far what we've seen is them holding each other, replicating the first time that they came together, and they fall asleep in that manner. And by doing so, that is essentially what ends up having them go back and forth through the worlds. So my question was, well, when they're in Japan to come back to the dream world, do they have to always be replicating that? Well, the answer to that question is no. And this episode I thought was not going to answer it because right before the credits hit this episode, right before the ED hit, they fell asleep next to each other but not holding each other. I was like, oh my God, that's the question I've been wondering. But what the episode ended up doing, which I thought was really cool, is post-ED, so post-credits, they show that they did in fact make it to the other world. So that solidified the fact that you just have to be near Kazuhito, not actually beholding each other. Now that led me to other questions of like, okay, since he was a child, nobody slept next to him at any point to where he, in his 30 years of living, that he hasn't had this, like nobody, you know, cousin, brother, sister, mother, grandfather, grandmother, friend, sleepover, nothing? Roommate, college dorm mate, nothing, nobody? Now, I guess, should I be thinking about that? The short answer is no. But, you know, when you open a can, you can't exactly close it. So that was one of the things, but it was answered for me, so I was excited that it did, in fact, get answered for me. So I love that. The other things I thought was really cool is in the other world, they are forming a I was going to say party and bond, blah, blah. They're forming a party for the first time, which I thought was really cool too, which doesn't make sense to me either, because it's like, okay, they've known each other for a while, so they've never formed a party with each other or others. But okay, I'll digress. They're doing it for the first time. I think that's cool. And the cat girl is going to be something implemented within the story, which I think is going to be cool as well. So I love that. Now, to be honest, what I don't love is, as I expressed, and I'm going to talk about the rest of the episode, but as I expressed last week, I think the show suffers when it spends too much time in that dream world because it's an isekai fantasy type world. And because of that, you kind of have these pre-ideas, this determination of what good fantasy, good isekai looks like. And this one fits more the budget bill. The fights were really lackluster. The world is whatever. Like, the fantasy world kind of sucks. And because of that, the show kind of diminishes. It kind of goes for it. Thankfully, this specific episode, we spent no time in that dream world, which is where the show shines. But as we look to next episode, it looks like we'll be doing a little bit of this, which means good episode, meh episode, good episode, meh episode. And this is a similar thing that has happened before. There was another anime about some dude who isekais. He has like a pet parrot. And it was the reverse. It was when they're in that anime, it was when they're in the fantasy world, because they could transport back and forth. When they were in the fantasy world, it was really, really good stuff. But when they were in Japan, it really, really sucked. So, I mean, it just kind of pick your poison kind of thing. So, I just want to say that. Now, this episode, though, focused on what I loved. And the show really does thrive when it's just focusing on the title, which is Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf, and it just has her acclimating to Japan, has her learning the language. In this episode, they went to the library. She was able to meet a cat this episode. She was able to read books. They were able to take a cat book home. He was able to read to her. They were able to watch a movie. He had a friend, probably, former college or high school or something. He had a friend who happened to work at the library, and that's going to be her first friend. That same friend lives in their same buildings. Like the show thrives when they are focusing on just being in Japan and her acclimating and learning and finding things for the first time. I think it's cute, it's adorable, and that's really where the show shines the most. So I'm loving it quite a bit. I think this episode was, really good, but it wasn't. It made me a little worried for what's gonna come next. But I thought this episode was really good. I love this show, but it's definitely gonna do one of those ebb and flow, one of those like topsy-turvy kind of things as it continues to, as we continue to progress through the season. And I'm also loving the Kazuhito and the Miss Elf and their relationship that's growing, and the fan service is sprinkled in there, but it's not overbearing. I love that too. So yeah, episode number 4 was really good stuff. I would say this is an 8 out of 10 episode. A little worry for next episode, but hey, it remains to be seen. We'll see on what we end up getting next episode. Until then, my friends, leave a comment, and I'll see you next week. Peace out.